When people demand democracy, they don't march to the palace gates, they march to plazas. In 2011, Cairo's Tahrir Square became a miniature city of its own. Protesters pitched tents, cooked food, built clinics, and debated the future of Egypt in the open air. For 18 days, Tahrir wasn't just a plaza, it was democracy itself, fragile, risky, alive. And this wasn't new. From ancient Athens to modern Hong Kong, from Washington's National Mall to Seoul's candlelight vigils, democracy has always needed one thing: space. Public space was where strangers meet, argue, and sometimes resist, where freedom isn't abstract but embodied in streets and squares. This is the story of democratic cities, plazas, and participation. Democracy's first stage was a dusty plaza in Athens, over 2,500 years ago. The Agora began as a market, but it evolved into the city's civic heart. Here, citizens gathered to debate laws, hold trials, and vote to exile corrupt leaders through ostracism. Imagine dropping a shard of pottery with someone's name on it, and if enough agreed, that politician was exiled for 10 years. That was direct democracy, Agora style. The design made it possible. The space was open and central, not hidden behind palace gates. Towers provided shade, temples offered symbolism, and statues reminded citizens of their collective identity. It was both practical and symbolic, messy, noisy, vibrant. Philosophers like Socrates spent their days here, pestering people with uncomfortable questions. Ordinary Athenians mingled with thinkers, generals, and merchants. Politics wasn't confined to chambers, it happened in public, under the sky. But exclusions mattered. Women, slaves, and foreigners were not allowed full participation. Even the most open plaza had boundaries. The Agora shows both democracy's promise and its limits. When Rome borrowed the idea, it turned into a forum. At first, citizens argued here too, but soon emperors marched in triumphs, and the forum became a backdrop for imperial spectacle. Lesson 1. Democratic space is fragile. It can be overtaken, reproposed, or silenced. After centuries of monarchs, the Renaissance revived civic space. In Florence, the Piazza della Signoria was where the Republic confronted rulers. Public debates, executions, and protests unfolded in the same square. Statues of David and Hercules wasn't just art, they were symbols of civic defiance. By the Enlightenment, democracy spilled into both plazas and cafes. Coffee houses in London and Paris became tiny universities. 81 with a coin could join debates. Newspapers were read aloud, revolutions whispered into being. Paris's Place de la Concorde flipped rules repeatedly. Royal parades, revolutionary executions, then protest ground again. Squares weren't just neutral backdrops, they were battlegrounds of legitimacy. The key wasn't design perfection, it was accessibility. Spaces cheap enough, open enough, and central enough that ordinary people could claim them. When the US designed its new capital in 1791, Pierre L'Enfant embedded democracy in its geometry. Washington, D.C. was full of broad avenues radiating from the capital with open vistas connecting institutions. The National Mall became the symbolic lawn of republic and, crucially, a stage for dissent. Over time, the mall has hosted many events. 1939, Marian Anderson's open-air concert against racial segregation. 1963, Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech before 250,000 people. 1971, Vietnam veterans throwing medals onto the Capitol steps. 2017, the Women's March, one of the largest protests in US history. Here, democracy didn't just happen in Congress. It happened on the grass and steps outside it. Other American spaces echo this. Philadelphia's Independence Hall hosted debates that burst the Constitution, but also abolitionist rallies decades later. Boston Common, once grazing land, became a democratic stage for protests against slavery and later the Vietnam War. But democracy was never universal. Native Americans, enslaved Africans, and women were long excluded. Over time, These same plazas became arenas where marginalized groups demanded inclusion. Democracy's geography expanded through struggle. Europe's grand plazas became democratic shorthands. London's Trafalgar Square, built to celebrate the empire, it became the people's rally point. Suffragettes marched here, anti-apartheid protests filled it, climate activists still occupy it. The lion statues are less about war victories now. It's more about watching citizens debate. Paris's Place de la République, once traffic circle, now protest hall. From the 1871 Paris commune to vigils after the Charlie Hebdo attacks, its Marian statue has become a platform literally climbed by demonstrators. Prague's Wenceslas Square, November 1989, half a million filled it chanting truth and love. Within weeks, the Velvet Revolution toppled communism. These plazas show how architecture meant for monarchs or emperors can be reclaimed. Democratic energy is parasitic. It thrives in spaces originally built for power, then flips them for protest. The 20th century sharpened democracy's stakes. In Berlin's Alexanderplatz, November 1989, East Germans gathered in their largest protest. Within days, the wall cracked and democracy spread across Eastern Europe. In Beijing's Tiananmen Square, that same year, students demanded reform under Mao's portrait. The tankman image, which is the one protesters halting a column of tanks, became democracy's most fragile symbol. In Chile's Plaza de Armas, rallies against Pinochet reclaimed urban space once dominated by military parades. Same formula: plaza plus people equals democracy. Different outcomes depending on regime's tolerance. Like and subscribe, because once you have seen democracy in plazas, you want to see how nationalism built entire capitals to craft identity. In the global south, plazas became stages for liberation. Cairo's Tahrir Square, 2011, a city within a city, democracy rehearsed in real time. Tents, clinics, poetry, and debate filled the space. New Delhi's Rajpath, built by the British as Imperial Avenue, later repurposed for Indian democracy. In 2020 or 21, farmers' protests reclaimed it, marching tractors past the parliament. Seoul's Gwanghwamun Plaza, candlelight protests in 2016 or 17, drew millions, toppling President Park Geun-hye. Mexico City's Zocalo, one of the world's largest plazas, staged for independence celebrations, presidential inaugurations, and protests against corruption. Across Independence Square, built to mark Ghana's 1957 liberation, still hosts rallies symbolizing African democracy. Hong Kong's streets, the 2014 umbrella movement turned rows into democracy plazas, yellow umbrellas shielding protesters from tear gas. These spaces revealed a pattern. Plazas designed for authority are constantly reclaimed by citizens. Democracy isn't only monumental plazas, it lives in daily spaces. Markets are schools of democracy. Prices negotiated, disputes settled, gossip shared. Every bargain is a mini democratic negotiation. Sidewalks, as Jane Jacobs argued, are public living rooms. Watching, chatting, arguing, they build trust and accountability. Cafes and bars. Revolutions were whispered in smoky Paris cafes. Civil rights debates sparked in American dinners. Hyde Park's Speaker's Corner in London is democracy distilled. Anyone can climb a box and argue. Anarchists, preachers, comedians. Some get heckled, some applauded, but everyone gets heard. Imagine Twitter or X but outdoors, with more pigeons and fewer trolls. These small stages remind us democracy is practiced in national capitals. Across cultures, democratic spaces share four traits. First, openness, accessible to all, not gated. Second, visibility, rulers inside, symbolizing accountability. Parliaments, statues, or domes as democratic backdrops. Third, flexibility, Plazas morph from markets to protests to vigils. Fourth, risk. Openness invites chaos, protest, sometimes violence. That's not weakness, it's democracy's price. Unlike authoritarian spaces that demand obedience, democratic plazas invite disagreement. Today, democratic plazas face new threats. Privatization. Many new public squares are privately owned. Try protesting in London's Canary Wharf or a US shopping plaza. Security will escort you out. Surveillance. Cameras, drones, and barricades bring spontaneity. Citizens feel watched before they've spoken. Commercialization. Times Square is dazzling, but can you imagine a revolution there? As drowned out protests. The danger isn't just losing space, it's losing the belief that public space belongs to public. If democracy's plaza vanish, democracy itself risks becoming abstract. But democracy isn't the only ideology shaping cities. In the 20th century, another force rose. Nationalism, where democracy built plazas of participation, nationalism built capitals of identity. From Ankara to New Delhi, from Brasilia to Abuja, nations invented themselves through monumental cityscapes. That's our next stop, Episode 7, Nationalist Cities, Inventing the Homeland.